So maybe you're a pacifist, at least one that likes to give gifts. Or maybe you would much rather choose a book than having to go to war in any type of way. Or if we just keep it simple, you're just one that likes to use the high ground all the time and go on defensive and abuse its power to basically dominate your whole Call of Duty Warzone game. The third form of lightsaber combat, known also as Soresu. Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the best practitioners of it, and mainly the analyze will be based on him as it would show its best performance and fairly overall, as well as also analyzing its main cons and the apparent things to be aware of if any of you decide to use this form. So, what are the pros? The pros would be easy to block attacks over a long period of time, as well as if you're called to Star Wars physics in the Clone Wars, you could deflect lightsaber bolts easily, and if so, in a more experienced way, deflect it back at your opponent. But of course, some other forms are also capable of that, but that's just one of the capabilities of Form 3, as far as I know from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, other pros of this form would be how to dissuade your enemy from continuing the battle, to cause enough exhaustion and perhaps frustration in your enemy to believe that the longer this battle lasts, the less worth it will be. Now, in modern Star Wars context, there really isn't too much that could really prescribe that claim. But if you read the ancient Star Wars text, which goes back to the High Republic and other ancient Jedi and Sith wars, you would see some cases that are similar to the one I've just made. And yes, there are many types. Even the ancient Sith Darth Bane used Form 3, as well as a few of his apprentices, who used it to their own advantages. Well, Sith or Jedi, this form certainly showed a great defense, and the ultimate solution to, let's say, blaster bolts from bounty hunters, battle droids, stormtroopers, or even clone troopers. Now you will all wonder, why would the Jedi fall so easily during Order 66 if there were obviously the use of Form 3? Now, this is the answer I would like to give to all of you. The Great Defense is a complemental name for the delayment of the inevitable. Now, of course, as you know, if you rely solely on defense, it's merely just going to delay the enemy. Either your enemy gives up or continues on to the fact where you have no strength or backup plans left, and you're just left solely there to perish, which is not a very good thing, is it? So, that is the first con I've just referenced, and that is the eventual defeat of any practitioners if they do not have a counter-offensive strategy on their backs. Now, this is what Obi-Wan Kenobi managed to succeed in when he did his battle with Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar, where he was planning to drag him to somewhere to a vulnerable position where it would be to his own advantage, such as the two places. Now you guys will know the iconic place where you have the high ground. Certainly that slope was definitely an advantage for Obi-Wan Kenobi. However, there was another one. But the first one may seem less obvious. While they were in the facility, the indoor facility, where Anakin was being led into, and Obi-Wan Kenobi tried to hit him in the back, backhanded with his lightsaber. But of course, Anakin Skywalker easily did that, as one of the things of Form 5 is basically you can block attacks towards your back easily. And yeah, but it was a good attempt nevertheless. Well, and Anakin Skywalker definitely was in a bit of an aggression mode. So it is also should be respected that Obi-Wan Kenobi was basically able to hit multiple hits back at him with the power of Form 3 of Ultimate Defense. Now you guys, some of you will question, why couldn't he do that the same perhaps in A New Hope? Well, of course, time, aging, and despite the support of the Force, Obi-Wan Kenobi was, of course, driven away from his prime, and he basically lacked the ability to parry the heavy attacks of the hybrid, the Gemso and Xian of Form 5, which Anakin had improvised during his time as Vader, the ultimate conqueror of the Empire. Now, of course, this basically revealed how Form 3 would eventually be a downfall for its practitioner, if not exercised properly. And also, it will also should be importantly notified that Mark II, the Form 2nd, Makashi, which is the one I reviewed before, was also one of the main downfalls for Form 2 practitioners. If you see how Count Dooku turned Obi-Wan Kenobi nearly into a sashimi, like using his lightsaber, which is a curved handle as well, and kind of just looping up his right arm, part of his flesh, and also his bottom leg as well, which obviously showed how it would be easily altered if the attacker had a plan of his own to counter the defenses easily. It is also worth mentioning that one of the best drills of Form 3 would be from also Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, this one specifically from the Rebels series in Star Wars, if you go on Disney+. Now, what Obi-Wan did against Darth Maul on Tatooine was extremely interesting, as he demonstrated a mixed combination of Form 3 and Form 4. So what you saw was he started off with his Soresu stance, but then he immediately switched to his Form 4 stance, much like his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, which what he was trying to do was to fool Darth Maul into believing he would do the same thing as his master did during the Battle of Naboo, in that scene, in that little circle that they fought in. Now, what Maul did not know that he was ready to do something that his master didn't do. So of course he used his normal stance, his first attack, to basically block the first blade, but then what he did was to lock himself in a secure position, so Darth Maul wasn't able to use his double blade trick. And once Maul was stuck in the locked position, he switched to a middle cut and cleaved both his lightsaber and body in half. And Darth Maul was no more. And yeah, it is pretty interesting. If you see in the background, I have demonstrated and also spent a lot of time basically scanning out how the final battle took out. And I tried to imitate the moves to show you guys how it was done. Now, in response towards why I disagree with the physics of the high ground, you guys are probably gonna wonder, why would I even think such a thing? Well, let's just say, well, if you see my little example over here, you would probably understand why I wouldn't think of using that gear against an opponent. So you see... Annie-chan. Oh,